Hello, this is cinematic psychology, but probably not for long. This is, I think, my seventh attempt at video analysis, and out of all of the videos that I've done, only two of them have actually been about movies, and this one's definitely not going to be about movies. So I'm trying to think of a new name, a name that sort of is catchy, rememberable, and just kind of focused on general media analysis instead of cinema. So if somebody can think of a good name and let me steal your idea, I would really appreciate that. And in the comment section, why don't we see if somebody can calculate how many times I touch my hair throughout the entire video? Let's get a running tally on this because I'm starting to get really curious. And without further ado, let's jump straight into this analysis. So first and foremost, I want to say happy 4th of July to all of my American friends. And so what I'd like to do is, because this is the 4th of July and I am an American, I wanted to celebrate by doing an analysis video on the most quintessential American story writer that I could possibly think of. And the most archetypical American story writer of all time is obviously Junji Ito. I'm gonna get canceled. So Junji Ito is not American. He's very much Japanese. I recently watched a horror manga dub of a Junji Ito story that I was very impressed with. And I watched this dub on a YouTube channel, Horror Symphonies. And if you're like me and you prefer to watch your media, or you prefer, audible books to reading yourself, I'd really recommend checking this channel out. They are really fantastic. They are so hardworking and producing their manga dubs and reading them out loud and, really refining their acting skills. They're very consistent and, they're constantly giving us new stories every 2 days. So, check out Horror Symphony and check out this story. I'll put the link in the bio. I wanted to discuss this story because, as I made it clear before, my favorite genre by far is horror. I feel like horror can reveal so much about the human experience, what it means to be alive, and the things that generally kind of go unreflected on because they're uncomfortable. And this story is no exception. This story, as soon as I encountered it, I have been thinking about it over and over and over again, and trying to pinpoint exactly why I find it so disturbing and so effective. And this story is The Bully. And The Bully takes place with a young woman, and she is talking to a love interest who is interested in marrying her. And she is sort of trying to test him to see if he would still be willing to marry her if he knew her true self, if he knew her past. And from there, the story is told in flashbacks of her experience with bullying a young boy on the playground growing up. And it's very disturbing because we encounter this story from the perspective of the girl, and we are put into that young girl's shoes. And we sort of devolve with her, and we become more and more depraved with her as the story goes, forcing us to take on a role that we're not necessarily comfortable with, and really taking on that malice and owning it as the consumer of media. And the way that she treats the boy that she bullies, the treatment escalates more and more, and experiencing that is very uncomfortable. The things that she does, they are, from some certain perspectives, typical bullying things, but they're really vindictive and inflicted upon a very helpless boy. And despite the fact that you want to sympathize with the boy, you're forced to encounter the story from the perspective of the perpetrator. And that's just the beginning. So as she's telling the story, she's sort of looking to her love interest for reassurance, and she receives it. And this is part of what makes this story so horrifying is he's willing to justify the things that she does as, oh, that's just typical child behavior. You know, that's just what kids do. That's just how kids act. It's fine. And this very much mirrors how we process the evil within ourselves in our everyday lives. You know, we do something bad and we turn to somebody for comfort and reassurance that what we did was not that bad. And most of the time we get it. Our loved ones will try to take our side and try to come up with defenses. And as she's reflecting on her own story, even so, you don't really get the sense that she understands the harm that she caused to this young boy. Instead, you get the sense of her kind of putting the blame on the child that she is tormenting. He was so needy, he was so annoying, it was so much fun to pick on him, etc., etc. And now we still have so much more to go in terms of how dark this story gets. So, as an adult, she once again encounters the young boy that she bullied, except now he is a handsome adult man. And she is so relieved when the adult man doesn't seem to be holding any anger or any resentment towards the way that she treated him, that she falls in love with him. And I think this is a really accurate depiction of how we stay put in the cycles of abuse that we perpetrate, is that when we are the toxic person in a relationship, when we are doing bad things, we turn to the people that we are victimizing for reassurance that, you know, if they still love us, then this isn't abuse. If they still approve of us, this isn't abuse. You know, their perspective is what matters. And if they don't think what we're doing is bad, we're not really that bad. And instead of causing any sort of self-improvement from this dynamic, it just perpetrates the harm that we cause and prevents us from any self-reflection. And she really latches on to this because rather than confronting the evil within herself, she is doing absolutely everything that she can to avoid it. And she ends up marrying the previous victim and having a child with him. And after the child is born new, the victim that she married leaves, and she is forced to raise the child on her own. And this is definitely the darkest part. It becomes more and more difficult for her to manage the responsibilities of being a single mother, and she becomes more and more frustrated with her child, Hiroshi. And as she becomes more and more frustrated with the responsibilities of being a mother, Hiroshi starts to look more and more like his father to her, New, the original boy that she victimized. And then we see her behavior become abusive to her own son, and she even refers to him as New. And it's terrifying because this boy is absolutely helpless and absolutely defenseless. Unlike New, who had a family that could take him away from this child on the playground, all Hiroshi had was his mother, who was taking delight in it. And as she's explaining to her son why she used to bully her son's father, she explains, oh, you know, he just never left. He never tried to stop me. I think he liked it. Once again, making excuse after excuse after excuse and becoming the worst possible version of herself. And by the end of it, she has become so detached from any sort of self-reflection that she literally dresses up as the child that she used to be and takes her son to the park. And as the viewer, we are completely helpless to help this poor kid, and who knows what, you know, abuse he's going to be facing from his mother. And at the same time, we've spent this entire story seeing everything through the mother's eyes. And this is honestly the most terrifying concept I can think of. It's more terrifying than any evil another person could perpetrate on us. It's more terrifying than our own mortality, in my opinion. There's nothing scarier than the evil within ourselves. as well as the way that we avoid addressing those evils within ourselves. I think there's absolutely nothing more terrifying than the harm that we can cause to other people and the true selves that we're constantly coming up with ways to avoid. So I definitely recommend this story. In my opinion, this is the most impressive Junji Ito story that I've encountered so far. And I think that it's really valuable in and of itself. It's just, entertainment, but also in encouraging constant self-reflection and encouraging us to not look for reassurance of our bad behaviors, but to face it head on, because this is the only way that we can improve and become better people. And with that, happy America Day and good luck with your lives. Bye.